It's me, Nisi. I'm back to do the final reading. We are here, you guys. Um, I've been trying to push out these videos, not every day, but I really am excited to receive this book from Claudio's work. I ordered it on Amazon and I just had to dig my teeth right into it. So, the book that we're going to finish up today, like right now, is We Will Intervene, The Warning, Claudio Naselli, No Scaphandrum. All right. And then this is Mr. Claudio, who I believe is down in Argentina. All right. And that's him pictured on the ship. I guess he was going to Antarctica and beyond the ice walls. Just saying. I don't know. I mean, I know he's been underground, and I think he went underground and went through certain passages that way. But I do know he did take a voyage. Okay. So before we read this final part, I want to read one little chapter, not getting off topic, but I want to share something with you from Eckhart Tolle because I came across it at lunch and I really wanted to share this one, 2.5 pages with you. Okay. So I'm reading from, shout out to Chief Red Wolf, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. All right. And just listen. And then we're going to get right into Claudio stuff. Okay. Important part, excuse me. The Power of Now is called, the chapter is called Christ, the Reality of Your Divine Presence. This is why I'm sharing all this information, because I'm laying it together and tying it all in for those of you who want to know and who love to read and like to research. I'm providing this information to get you to think, to get your juices flowing, and for critical thinkers to really see things from a different perspective, right? If you're watching the videos, you're already above like what 90% of the population or 60% of the population is. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna say 70%. That's still kind of like dun dun dun, and we're like the upper 30 or 20% that really see it for what it is. But then there's smaller percentages there that actually do the research and do the things to help to further your knowledge and to ascend. All right, let's get into it. This is called Christ, the Reality of Your Divine Presence. Don't get attached to any one word. You can substitute Christ for presence if that is more meaningful to you. Christ is your God essence, or the self, as it is sometimes called in the East. The only difference between Christ and a presence is that Christ refers to your indwelling or inner dwelling divinity, regardless of whether you are conscious of it or not. Whereas the presence means your awakened divinity or God essence. Okay. Christ, when I think of this, I'm reading this to you to give you a better context. But I also know that Christ is actually the CSF fluid that goes up and down your spine, the cerebral spinal fluid that goes up and down your spine. It recycles so many hours, 24 hours a day, 6 times 4 is 24. Those nodules take 15 minutes per nodule, which is your vertebra in your spine. And it lubricates the brain or lubricates your cerebellum. All right. I know that's what it is, but I'm breaking this down to give you a different perspective as well. Many misunderstandings and false beliefs about Christ will clear if you realize that there is no past or future in Christ. To say that Christ was or will be is a contradiction in terms. Jesus was. He was a man who lived 2,000 years ago and realized divine presence, his true nature. And so he said, before Abraham was, I am. He did not say, I already existed before Abraham was born. Okay. That would have meant that he was still within the dimensions of time and form identity. The words I am used in a sentence that starts in the past tense indicate a radical shift, a discontinuity in the temporal dimension. It is in the Zen-like statement of great profundity Jesus attempted to convey directly, not through discursive thought, the meaning of presence of self-realization. He had gone before the consciousness dimension governed by time into the realm of the timeless. The dimension of eternity had not come into this world. Eternity, of course, does not mean endless time, but no time. Thus, the man Jesus became Christ, a vehicle for pure consciousness. And what is God's self-definition in the Bible? Did God say, I have always been and I always will be? Of course not. That would have given reality to past and future. God said, I am that I am. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back row. I am that I am. No time here, just presence. The second coming of Christ is a transformation of human consciousness. The second coming of Christ is the transformation in human consciousness, not some entity in the sky that's going to come back and save you, a pretend sky daddy that's up in heaven waiting for you. Heaven is a state of mind. Read it one more time. The second consciousness of Christ is a transformation of human consciousness. A shift from time to presence, from thinking to pure consciousness, not the arrival of some man or some woman. If Christ were to return tomorrow in some externalized form, what could he or she possibly say to you other than this? I am the truth. I am the divine presence. I am eternal life. I am within you. I am within you. I am here and I am now. Just saying. Never personalize Christ. Don't make Christ into a form identity. Avatars, divine mothers, and like masters, the very few that are real, are not special as persons. Without a false self to uphold, defend, and feed, they are more simple, more ordinary, and then more ordinary man or woman. Anyone with a strong ego would regard them as insignificant or more like not see them at all. If you are drawn to an enlightened teacher, it is because there is already enough presence in you to recognize presence in another. I'm going to say that one more time. If you are drawn to an enlightened teacher, it is because there is already enough presence in you to recognize presence in another. There were many people who did not recognize Yeshua, Jesus, or Buddha, Lao Tzu, or Krishna. I mean, I'm just telling you. As there are and always have been many people who are drawn to false teachers. Egos are drawn to the bigger egos. Darkness cannot recognize light. Only light can recognize light. Darkness cannot recognize light. Only light can recognize light. I'm going to say it one more time. Darkness cannot recognize light. Only light can recognize light. So don't believe that the light is outside of you, or that it can only come through one particular form. If only your master is an incarnation of God, then who are you? And any kind of exclusivity in identification with form, and identification with form means ego, no matter how well you disguised. No matter how well it's just disguised. Use the master's presence to reflect your own identity beyond name and form back to you and to become more intensely present yourself. You will soon realize that there is no mine or yours in presence. Presence is just the one. Presence is just the one. Group work can also be helpful for intensifying the light of your presence. A group of people coming together in a state of presence generates a collective energy field of great intensity. It's why they always say when you do it in numbers, it's greater. All right. It not only raises the degree of presence of each member of the group, but it also helps to free the collective human consciousness from its current state of mind dominance. Okay? This will make the state of presence increasingly more accessible to individuals. However, unless at least one member of your group is already firmly established in it and thus can hold the energy frequency of that state, the egoic mind can easily reassert itself and sabotage the group's endeavors. Although group work is invaluable, it is not enough, and you must not come to depend on it. Nor must you come to depend on a teacher or a master except during the transitional period when you are learning the meaning and the practice of presence. I hope that's been beneficial. I hope that explains some things. And I'm not trying to rub anybody the wrong way when I talk about it, but I think that it is beneficial to, study certain things and understand and realizing that you are pure consciousness and energy. I mean, it is what it is. It's a beautiful thing once you know it, but then you've got to put that ego in check. And see, that's why I say you got to die before you die, where you never die, because you got to put certain things to death. You got to change certain things about yourself in order for you to ascend or to reach a higher state of consciousness, right? All right, let's get into part 5, how the intervention will unfold. And if you didn't catch my video at lunchtime, I want to say, please go back. It's down here on the page. Just scroll down and you'll see it. And I want to show you the upper waters because I think it's so freaking beautiful. We are not told the truth about stuff. I'm telling you. This is the upper waters. This is the upper waters. As above, so below. You say creatures and aliens and extraterrestrials. I don't like to use the word alien. The extraterritorials. They live in the water here in the known lands. That's no big secret. And they live beyond the ice walls. It's a beautiful thing once you understand the concept, you understand the idea of what really transpired. It's wonderful and it opens up doors for you. So, part 5, let's get into it. This is how the intervention would unfold. Helen clarified that in order to avoid strengthening the very prison they sought to break, a large-scale intervention was something extremely complex to carry out. This is why, according to what Helen explained to me, the council envisioned the intervention as a process divided into 3 phases, okay? Each phase would depend on the severity of the events, the level of manipulation imposed by the custodians and their allies, and the degree of understanding humanity could sustain without falling once again into obedience and fear and worship, just like what we're doing right now. I'm telling you, everybody's a drone. I mean, everybody's on this part. All right. Phase 1, the interruption of the narrative. Here we go. The first phase will begin with a total fracture of the narrative. Helen explained that the system is not sustained only by weapons, bases, or governments, but its ability to organize the interpretation of events. First, it decides what exists. Then it decides how it must be named. Finally, it teaches humanity to ridicule, to fear, or reject anything that falls outside the frame. This work that Claudio's putting out would be ridiculed by all these people at MIT and Yale and Harvard, blah, 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 blah. They would ridicule him because they would say this is no basis. You see what I'm saying? So they've got this stuff locked down. I'm telling you. Finally, it teaches humanity to ridicule, fear, or reject anything that falls outside the frame. For that reason, before any open presence, that structure would have to be weakened. The intervention would begin by exposing these contradictions, recovering archives, revealing maps, connecting isolated testimonies, and showing that many scattered anomalies were not accident, but separated fragments of the same truth. It's exactly what he's been doing this whole time while he's releasing these books. I've been reading to you for the past 2 years. It's exactly what we've been doing. All right. And I'm sharing this message with Claudio, or sharing this message from Claudio with you. All right. So that you can get a better understanding of some things. All right. Just got to go research. So it says, nor would everything be delivered all at once. Everything arrives in its own time. The purpose would be to open enough cracks so the official narrative could no longer close back upon itself with the same ease. All right. Forgotten archives could come to light. Testimonies from navigators, military personnel, scientists, workers from restricted zones could begin to concede, and they have. All right. Photographs, routes, altered coordinates, documents about ancient operations, and signals related to the ice walls, the domes, and the resets could cease to be seen as disconnected pieces. The first phase, Helen said, does not bring the ancestrals before humanity. It brings humanity before the possibility that everything it was taught has been administrated, fragmented, manipulated from the beginning. It's what I've been saying the whole time. I just say everything you've been taught is a lie, but I like the way they've raised that. Before the possibility, everything has been taught, has been administered, fragmented, and manipulated from the beginning. And it has been. All right. Phase 2, the opening of the passages. Here we go. That's what I want to get into. The second phase will be activated if the system attempted to move forward an irreversible point. All right. Helen was careful with this part. She said it would not be about evacuating crowds or choosing who deserved to be saved and who not. That would be the logic of the colonizers. The ancestral intervention in this phase would seek to preserve what could not fall into custodial hands during the fracture of the narrative. Original archives, key witnesses, guardians of knowledge, persecuted families, exposed infiltrators, fragments of memory capable of preventing the prison from being rebuilt with a new image. It is not about choosing who is worth more, Helen said. It is about preventing them from destroying the keys before the door can be opened for many, because only then will it be possible to free everyone, even those who distrust us today, because we understand the situation. In this phase, new passages, discrete routes, or protected crossings could be activated. Some would be maritime, all right? Others underground. Others would be linked to zones where the borders between the regions, domes, or membranes can become permeable under very precise conditions. Places we have been working on for a long time, in which we are now have the technology to activate. This is in bolded letters, okay? So you understand that this is serious, all right? They would not be they would not be public roads or announcements meant to provoke desperation. They would be movements of preservation. There's a difference. The difference from a custodian evacuation would be absolute. The colonizers moved people in order to classify, separate, and administer these people, like they've done underground with these deep underground bases. They've done that stuff for years. They've been building these bases out. All right. No, it's no secret now. Everybody knows this. The ancestrals would open passages in order to liberate. All right. Phase 3, public appearance. The third phase would be the most delicate and would only occur if the previous phases were no longer sufficient. All right. Or if humanity reached a degree of understanding capable of receiving an open presence without kneeling, without attacking, or without turning any truth into another official phantasm. I'm telling you, I would be the one that would say, hey, you know what? It is what it is, y'all. Everything we've been taught is a subjective truth. It's been manipulated from day one. A lot of people would have a hard time with this. And there would be people that would come, they see someone come out of spaceship, first thing they can do is kneel down because they don't know. But you have to treat them as though they are like yourself. I mean, they put their pants on, their clothes on the same way we do. I'm just telling you. They just have advanced technology, but, you just got to understand that we would have to be open to receiving without kneeling, without shooting at them, without doing crazy stuff, popping off, and without turning any truth into an official, phantasm or fanaticism, right? Helen explained that the public appearance of the ancestrals would never be an arrival from above. No, it would not. That would belong to an old deception. If it were ever to happen, it would come through the routes that had always existed. The coasts, the passages, the corridors, regions beyond that, walls, the ice walls, ancient maritime routes and zones humanity had been educated not to look toward. All right. Not all would appear at once. Not all would speak. Okay. Not everything would be shown in a single day. I'm just like, nope. Like, I've read to you in these books. Just give it to me straight. I want to know. They're like, you can't handle the truth. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Just telling you, not everything will be shown in a single day, but there would be enough presence to break the monopoly of the narrative. Ancestral delegates, Anakin representatives, archives, evidence, vessels, living testimonies, signs, and impossible to reduce entirely to mockery or forgery. It would be known. Bring it. Bring it. I'm telling you, bring it. Bring it, bring it, bring it. I'm ready. Helen insisted that this presence would not aim to establish a new authority. All right. If one day we reveal ourselves, she said, the first thing humanity must understand that you must not kneel before no one. That's right. We're not, because we're all divinity, even though they may look different. We all carry the life spark. We are all sentient ones. They're just our brothers and sisters. They may look a little different. but they're still our brothers and sisters. Let your mind go there, people. Let your mind go. All right, I'm just telling you. If one day we reveal ourselves, she said, the first thing humanity must understand is that it must not kneel before no one. All right. And that's very, very important. I can't say he's joined me, but hey. So it says that phrase was central because the system would try to turn the appearance either into a threat or into a cult. They always do that stuff. Hey, Natasha, how you doing? They always do that stuff. I'm telling you, people will turn stuff around to use it for their advantage. You know they do. Like these TD Jakes of the world. I'm just telling you. And the Creflo Dollars. People do things to control and manipulate. And the average person doesn't think until it's actually already happened. You see what I'm saying? Most people don't view things that way. I'm just telling you, like my husband always tells me, Mike always tells me, he says, Carolyn, people don't think like you do. So you got to stop. You got to know that they're not there with the knowledge. You got to stop being like that. I'm like, okay, all right. But he's right, you know? So it says that phase was central because the system would try to turn the appearance either into a threat or into a cult. The danger would be that humanity manipulated by a possible threat narrative written by the custodians now, Playbook 101 that I read to you a while back, might respond with military force. Like you see in all the movies, like with Superman, they came to get Superman and had all these tanks and stuff. I'm like, come on now. All right. Might respond with military forces. That is why the third phase would depend on how humanity learns to see. Okay. The main war at the moment would be a war of interpretation. They would say that the ancestrals are invaders. All right. They're going to say that. They would say that they're invaders, false envoys, a biological threat, a manipulation, a psychological operation, or a visual fabrication. They're going to come with all that. They are. Because they're trying to hang. You got to understand something. We're dealing with, and I don't like to use the word elites. We're dealing with people who have been in control for a long time or since this last reset. And even before that, because they've been manipulating stuff for a very, very long time. They don't want to give up the control that they got. All right. So they're going to do whatever they can to hold on to it. And that just means, like she said, biological threat, false envoys. They're going to say they're invaders. They're going to manipulate a psychological operation or a visual fabrication. They're going to go with all that. They're going to throw it all at us. Then you got to be smart enough to use that discernment that the creator of all gave you, right? It would not matter if the versions contradicted one another. The objective would be to saturate human perception so that no one could see clearly. So they're going to try to confuse you in every single way, right? Talon said the only possible response would be to remain calm. Let me highlight that in a pink marker. Okay, I got a peach marker over here. Helen said the only possible response would be to remain calm, show evidence, avoid provocation, and claim no power. That is why the open presence, if it were ever to occur, would need to be a coronation. All right. It would need to be a coronation. It would be an invitation to look without fear, to remember without phantasm, to listen without surrendering consciousness, to understand that humanity does not need a new master, but to recover the memory it should never have forgotten. Okay? Humanity is great, far greater than what is told in the news and in the media used today. In the narrative written through supposed ancient books and in the sidereal vastness of the floating spheres where they place you in an insignificant point in the galaxy far, far away, that type of shit. All right. While building an entire system so you cannot escape. So see how important you truly are. They had to create all of this to subdue you within these walled lands. And even then, they could not control your essence. So, and they didn't put this in the book. I'm just adding this part. The spraying of the skies with the heavy metals, the chemicals and frequencies with the military weaponry, with the 6G, the 10G, the flock cameras, all the control mechanisms with these new cars coming out in 2027, the mandates, the laws that they've written and they've wrote and they've passed, The things that they've done in secret, the sex trafficking, the unaliving of people who knew the truth and wanted to come out and say the stuff, like William Cooper and many others. The people they locked away and said that they were crazy, they got rid of it, they disappeared. Those people, I'm telling you, they have worked tireless. They have to poison us. They have to feed us fake food, especially in America. You leave America, you get somewhat of a better meal. You get more health. You get real food. Here, it's not like that. They're destroying this country from within because America is the foundation to all of this. That's why they're doing it. I'm answering your question so that you know, well, why are they doing all this? Because we're the foundation. This is the key. The Garden of Eden is here. It's in Florida. The gopherwood tree only grows on it grew on the East Coast. It was like 350 trees back in the 80s. I don't know how many trees are left now. I'm just telling you. So everything that we've been taught, they done flipped upside down, reversed it, usurped it, and used it. And what people are going to have a hard time is, and I'm going to get back to this last paragraph, is they're going to have a hard time learning that those that are in control created these religions, the Abrahamic religions. They created all of this crap, but they inverted the teachings because it was never about religion. It's always been about spirituality. The text of Islam and Christianity and the other one. What am I saying? The Jewish text. Yeah. Those three, right? So when you look at it, these Satanists, who are really Satanists now, they really follow something other than, all right? They created all this to keep everyone in control. So I say religions are front of control. When you start to read, you read all of the text and you understand what they did. But I'm not trying to convince you anything. I'm just telling you, I think it's fascinating. So anyway, Helen closed his explanation with the phrase that seemed to summarize the entire meaning of this intervention. Here we go. First, the narrative is broken. Then the keys are protected. Only after, if humanity can look beyond, may the presence become visible. And we trust that it will. Part 6, the next reset. Here we go. This is what I've been talking about, y'all. This is what's coming down the pipeline. When will the next reset take place, and is it close? Helen made it clear that there is no imminent reset in the way people usually imagine it. There is no sudden event that will erase everything and restart the cycle completely from zero. And she clarified, as she always does, that they are not here to spread panic. However, that does not mean nothing is happening now. She avoided any alarmist tone and emphasized that the fear and the panic only strengthen the very system one is trying to understand. What she did point out is that there is movement, clear movement, marked by an accelerated rearrangement of pieces. This dynamicism is not accidental. It is connected to the growing attention being placed on certain subjects that were once marginal. As more people begin to observe and question, the system loses part of the automatic control and is forced to readjust. Let me say that one more time. The dynamicism is not accidental. It is connected to the growing attention being placed on certain subjects that were once marginal. As more people begin to observe and question, the system loses part of its automatic control and it is forced to readjust. At the same time, conflicts in different regions are not isolated events. They function as scenarios that facilitate this process. They generate distraction, shift the focus. Like now the World Cup is coming on, but we're still talking about the wars and we're still talking about the Epstein files. But then you got all this weather. They keep distracting you to keep your mind away from what you really need to be looking at. Everybody's running around not paying attention to nothing. I'm just telling you, they're paying attention to stuff that doesn't matter when they really need to be focused on self and on the reconnection with source. So what she did say is, it is connected to a growing attention being placed on certain subjects that were marginalized. As more people begin to observe and question, the system loses part of the automatic control and is forced to readjust. At the same time, conflicts in different regions are isolated events. They function as scenarios that facilitate this process. They generate distraction, shift the focus, and allow new narratives to be prepared under conditions of tension. In that context, a complete reset is not projected, but the possibility of a more limited adjustment does exist. Helen did not define it that way, but I understood it as a partial reset. A partial reset. We've been fighting these reset wars for a very, very long time. At least 350 years, I'm going to tell you. So this type of reset does not imply eliminating everything that exists, but rather reconfiguring perception. It consists of modifying the frames of reference through which the new humanity interprets reality, introducing elements that previously did not fit, but doing so in a way that makes them acceptable. It is about gradually integrating into a new narrative, pushing us to the way they want us to go, to the kill box. I'm just telling you. One possible way of carrying out this reconfiguration would be the introduction of what today is called the extraterrestrials, which they've released those UAP files. That's why I'm talking about this stuff, to get you guys to understand some certain things. They talk about the extraterrestrials called extraterrestrials from outer space. Okay. A possible progressive, controlled, and carefully narrated visit. Under the format, the reaction would not be rejection, but acceptance. While these churches are meeting with the Vatican, all these heads of states, these pastors, these prime ministers, presidents went down to Antarctica. They saw some things and they're talking to the Vatican. They're executing a plan. They're getting ready to flip this stuff and roll something out. All right. Just got to be aware. The objective of that movement would be to establish a new dominant narrative, the idea that humanity is not alone, but under conditions defined by the system itself. They're going to have you looking at outer space instead of beyond the ice walls, and it's going to be carefully crafted, and they're not going to bring that up. They're going to stay away from that topic, and they're going to try to make you feel like you are crazy or you're a conspiracy theorist because you think outside the box. You don't follow along with the narrative. Okay. I just read that to you guys. This would make it possible to unify criteria, justify the creation of new structures, and expand control without generating direct resistance. Okay. Behind this type of operation would be the same actors already intervening on all other levels with the support and supervision of the custodians and Anunnaki. That's the Dracos of Edaman, the freaking Greys of Orion, the Nibirians. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of negative factions that are actually in on this bullcrap. All right. And then you got the melanated people like me who are behind it as well. The royal families. Okay. You see the feel melanated or light skin or pale versions on TV and on the news and put forth, but it's actually darker people that's running this crap. I'm just going to tell you. It is. It's a bunch of different races, but when you know, you know. I'm just going to tell you. When you know, you know. So it says, behind this type of operation will be the same actors already intervening on the other levels with the support and supervision of the custodian and Anunnaki structures. The key would lie in the way it is presented. It is a framework. It is defined in advance. The interpretation will be as well. Okay. If the framework is defined in advance, the interpretation will be as well. In that scenario, most people would accept the change because it would be perceived as a positive historical event. Right? The deeper reality will remain out of focus because of the way the narrative would be organized. They're going to spin it. They're going to put a positive thing on it. Okay. But it's what you don't see, the deals that they made behind closed doors. Right? It would also become another way of sealing the edges of the walls as the subject grows stronger with each passing day. This type of reconfiguration would not be a total reset, but it would be enough to alter the direction. It would change the way events are interpreted. And with that, the collective decisions derived from that interpretation. In the face of this, the position of the ancestrals does not change. For that reason, no immediate ending is being proposed. This is no total closure in the short term, but there is a clear attempt to refigure. And the attempt is already underway, as you will be able to observe throughout these times. Do not stop paying attention to what is also happening along the edges of the lands. Like them, you can go out there and look at those webcams. And, they monitor that and they censor it. But, the ice is melting, right? And there's going to be structures that they're going to come up and they're going to see. All right, let's get into the resets. With the exception of what occurred during the 6th generation when Grand Tartaria was forged, a particular stage in which the custodians of Anunnaki entered into a furious war that extended across the human timeline. The other resets occurred at the average interval of 1,543 years, based on the fact that the cycle began in 1728. And one could deduce that this cycle would approximately end around the year 3271, but it is not that simple. All right. It depends greatly on the changes caused by the external factors as well as the rebellions and the various events that may unfold within the known lands or the continents. All right. In addition, this timeline itself can be affected, and lately it is being affected. This is why many people are perceiving that time feels accelerated. And it is. They're moving up time. You notice that? They're like, where'd the day go? It's because they're messing with the timeline. They're messing with everything because they have the technology to do it here in the known lands. It says everything changed after the Great War of 1727 to 1728. Not only were all the parameters surrounding colonized humanity adjusted, but time itself was adjusted as well, especially knowing that a past humanity survived and now lives beyond the walls, ice walls, which they themselves raised artificially. In this way, we can begin to understand that resets do not always occur at a fixed interval. They may happen earlier or later. A partial reset may also take place as has already happened several times before. Fragments of those events still survive in certain ancient texts. I'm going to show you a picture. Look, here's the machines, here's the walls, here's the barriers, there's the machines that they use. All right. The chronology of human resets. The reset of the first humanity of Hyperborea and Asgard. Event, the colonization by the custodians, destruction and advanced civilization. Duration of the cycle, 1458 years. Reset of this first generation. Event, increase of forbidden knowledge. Beginning of external contacts. Duration of cycle, 1453 years. Second generation reset. Event, the contact with extraterrestrials, increase of critical thinking. Duration of that cycle, 1,558 years. Reset 3, the third generation. Rediscovery of the true nature of the dome and the rebellions. Duration of that cycle, 1,475 years. Reset number 4, the fourth generation. Event, war, external interventions of the archons or the giant beings. Duration of that cycle, 1,681 years. The reset of the fifth generation. Event, external conflicts, internal, external alliances, increase of spiritual knowledge. Duration of the cycle, 1,633 years. Sixth generation reset, the Great Tartary, 1728 AD. Event, Great War against the custodians and Anunnaki. Intervention of the Anakin giants and the creation of the advanced empire. That's why we see that Empire Strikes Back, because George Lucas read these texts. I'm telling you, he read the text. He knew about that. That's why he created that. The seventh generation is the actual cycle, 1728 to 29. Repopulation of the known lands. Event, a change of era will attempt to impose itself depending on the severity of the events. Intervention may occur by allies of humanity who seek liberation. The repopulation of the known lands is the Cabbage Patch, aka the Cabbage Patch babies, the ones I always talk about. The clones, the Cabbage Patch. Let me get that for you. And we got Cabbage Patch in all races, but primarily it is this one. You can tell by your blood type. It's a repopulation because they killed or unalived a lot of people, and there were some people that fled beyond the ice walls. I just read that to you. These are the Cabbage Patch baby. This is the repopulation event. Mind Unveiled over on YouTube. This is their book, and I highly recommend you go check out the movie Orphan Train, and you can go through and look at all this stuff. I know you can say, oh, it's hogwash, poppycock, Nisi. That's fiction. All right. Well, let me tell you this. When you start to do your genealogy, you're going to see you got some stuff missing, or you can't pull it. And its reason is because some of it was created. And a lot of it you're not going to find because they're going to say, okay, well, you're third or fourth generation. Your family came over when this time period. Okay, you fit the narrative. I'm just telling you, you're a Cabbage Patch. Nothing wrong with it. You got melanated Cabbage Patch too. I'm just telling you. But this is a real thing. That's the repopulation event of the known lands. So the warning to the colonizers, here we go. To every civilization, faction, operation, lineage, collaboration, intelligence, or hidden structure that has participated, directly or indirectly, here we go, in the administration, manipulation, redesign, concealment, exploitation, or interruption of the natural development of humanity within the known lands, the following notification is issued. This is an official announcement. The silence maintained by the ancestral, the Anakin, and allied civilizations must not, under any circumstances, be interpreted as a tacit acceptance of the regime imposed upon the present humanity. That silence was a decision of containment. For generations, open intervention was avoided in order to prevent the truth from being transformed into an instrument of panic, to prevent ancestral memory from being portrayed as an invasion, and to prevent humanity, still subjected to perceptual interference, from turning against those attempting to stop its definitive consolidation as an administrative colony. That stage has now reached its operational limit, just as was communicated long ago to the leaders who once crossed through the passages that were open in those times. You have also been forced to retreat on multiple occasions after attempting to flood our shores, poison our air, and destroy the places where families raise their children with ideas opposed to oppression, dogma, and the absence of freedom that you continue to extend. That intervention, the Intervention Council declares that any action intended to falsify the origin of humanity, claim spiritual authority over the Neshama, the divinity or a life spark, the consciousness, the transfer of control of the known lands, extended reset mechanisms into other domes, fabricate an external arrival under custodian Anunnaki authorization, continue using the invisible dome projector that I showed you, that's not the real sky, as a tool of the collective subjugation or redesign humanity under new colonizing parameters, will be considered a direct act of aggression against the original order of the human species. The council possesses sufficient records of previous cycles of the genetic manipulations carried out after the resets, of the destruction of the archives, of the deliberate fragmentation of the human memory, of the persecution against the messengers, the infiltrators, the guardians of knowledge, of operations conducted against civilian populations, what they still do right now today, and of the repeated attempts to study, weaken, or intercept the passage of the Neshama toward the celestial lands. Attempts to expand this control into outer regions, protected routes, the ancestral communities, the Anakin territories, and areas located beyond the first ice walls have also been recorded. Any continuation of these operations will be answered. The council establishes the following final boundaries. Here we go. If the attempt is made to impose a narrative in which the colonizers present themselves as creators, owners, designers, or spiritual authority over humanity, corresponding response will be activated. If an attempt is made to transfer partial or total control of the known lands to another civilization allied with, associated with, or functioning under the custodial Anunnaki network, the corresponding response will be activated. That means if the Pleiadians show up and they give you a crafted narrative of who they are and where they came from, that's a kickoff point. All right, you got to be aware of this stuff. So it says, if a fabricated arrival, if an attempt is made to carry out or expand the reset mechanism into the second dome or into any region that has been remained beyond the first enclosure, the response will cease to be a warning and will enter a defensive phase. Y'all been warned. If a fabricated arrival, manipulated appearance, directed evacuation, or dome projection is used to induce obedience, panic, worship, or acceptance of a new colonizing administration, intervention will occur. That means if you see this individual coming out the sky, riding a white horse, and you see this thing touch down and hover over all these cities, that's a direct threat. That's an aggression. That is not the ancestrals. They're not going to do that, you guys. You have to understand a fake alien invasion would not be them. It would be the opposing team. All right. The Decepticons, because we live in Decepticon territory. All right. If the human Neshama is attacked directly, if the spiritual, perceptual, or biological alteration of the children of the new cycle is intensified, or if there is an attempt to transfer the human being into a creature incapable of remembering its origins, intervention will occur. Well, they've been doing that for a while. They've been doing that. They've been doing that in these underground labs and these ground and these islands and these places. They've been dropping those creatures off in the national park for a minute. That's why you think people coming up missing. I'm just telling you. They've been doing that a minute. The declaration is not a request. It is not part of the negotiation, nor is it a symbolic warning. It constitutes a formal notification of operational boundaries. Y'all done been told, Anunnaki and the custodians, y'all ain't elites. Y'all ain't elites for shit. You guys are parasites. And it is being transmitted through these writings, even as copies of the same declaration are distributed to the relevant leaders. You have mistaken patience for surrender. You have mistaken containment for weakness. You have mistaken silence for oblivion. You interrupted the presence or the absence of a visible response as permission to continue expanding in an architecture of domination that has already extended across too many cycles, reptilians. That intervention is now revoked. I need a sledgehammer so I can go revoked. I'm telling you, the humanity of the known lands was isolated, diminished, educated with an administrative history, fake ass history, and placed beneath a designed sky meant to reduce its perception of itself. When you go up in the sky, you look up in the sky, you know damn well that is not our sky. And if you don't know that, you need to start looking at it that way. Just saying, or don't. But it was not created by you. It does not belong to you. It owes no obedience for any being. If it owes no obedience for having been interfered with, nor does it fall under your authority because it was weakened. The same applies to everything surrounding the celestial lands, which are part of the human essence and belong to no other species beneath the great dome. The human neshama, our energy, our life force, our spark, our divinity, our soul, if you want to break it down like that, did not originate within your laboratories. I'm going to say that one more time. Some of you guys were manufactured. All right. We got that understanding, right? But I'm going to tell you, the neshama for humanity was not manufactured. It is a gift. It was given. It is the essence of what they want, right? Therefore, we demand that the true human essence and its past be public, especially considering that you have continued interference with the text we have been publishing. Everything else will be considered a hostile operation. The ancestral memory has not been destroyed. The ancestral memory has not been destroyed. I'm going to say that one more time. The ancestral memory has not been destroyed. The archives have not been completely erased, people. The routes have not been forgotten, and you are aware of this, Anunnaki custodians, Grays of Edaman, damn reptilians, the Orion faction, and Nibirians, and all you other clandestine fucktards. Excuse my language. The peoples you believe have been reduced to silence are still watching. And if the boundaries established here are crossed, the response will no longer depend upon your calendars, your media, your government, your screens, your treaties, or your containment or concealed structures. Cease immediately all operations of domination against humanity of the new cycle as was originally established in the early era through the barbaric Thelonic Pact 0315, the primordial agreement recorded in the archives preceding the fall of the first humanity. It established that no race, civilization, operative lineage, or advanced intelligence could attack, subjugate, redesign, claim, or administer another conscious species carrying out a spiritual principle. Every neshama connected to the source was to be considered invaluable in origin, free in development, and beyond any form of ownership, force pack, or external authority, reptilians, all right, which you chose to violate by opposing the original creation. The warning has been issued. That's in all bolded. It's not in caps, but it's bolded. The Intervention Council of the Ancestrals, Anakin, Venetians, and Cassiopeian. Message issued through Claudio Naselli. Bam, there it is. Y'all see that? Read it to you word for word. They ain't playing. They ain't playing with you guys. They're not playing. They're not playing. This message has been delivered. Here's the maps. The known lands. Here's where we are. Boom, bada boom. Right in the center of all this. We're going to pop it off. Right here. Here's more maps. Look. Now, y'all gonna be like, oh, Nisi, oh, Nisi, oh, Nisi. Here you go. There's the continents. There's the walls. There's more lands beyond the walls. Don't care how you feel. Don't care how you feel. Here's the land of the custodians. I have all 23 or 24 of his books. We got 2 audiobooks out. Telling you, I delivered the message. May have been a little dramatic, but it is important for you all to understand this. What we've been taught is not the truth, y'all. I don't care how you feel. I don't care who gets on here. These educated types, these degreed out the wazoo. And I'm not being mean when I say this. You know, you're educated in a system of lies, and so you believe that. So, I mean, I can't fault you for it because I was like that too. I was under the subjugation. I was. And I'm still in the matrix. I'm still here. I'm still participating and working and doing things here. But I'm telling you, everything that we've been given or we've been told is not the truth. Here we go with some more maps. Look. And these MFers know. They know the truth. But they're, you know, if you have time tonight, watch the Truman Show with, who is it, Jim Carrey. Watch that show. Watch it. Because they put it in movies. They tell you everything that you need to know, but you need to have a critical thinking mind and analyze things and see it for what it is. Oh, it's not a conspiracy. No, it's not. It's the actual truth. Good job, Claudio. We finished the book. We will intervene. Here's Helen Morris. All right. Here's Helen Morris right here. Here's the upper oceans. Here's Claudio right here. There are giants, the Anakin Guard. I read to you, the Cassipians, the Venetians. There's a faction of people, the ancestral humans. I'm telling you. Now, books. The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls, World Beyond the Antarctica. In Terra Infinita, Extraterrestrial Worlds and the Civilizations. True story told by the woman who was born in lands beyond the ice walls. Hidden Lands Beyond the Antarctica, the continuation of Morris's journey between the interconnected planets. Terra Infinita, the detailed worlds and the theory of the other domes. That's the book I'm going to read next. Even though I've read all the other ones, we're just going to go through that one real quick. My Journey to Antarctica, Crossing the First Dome, The Dome and Outer Space Projection, year 1728, The Last Reset. That's a magnificent book. All these are great books. Terra Infinita Map, The Dome Worlds, excellent books. It shows you 178 different races, and it shows you the different factions of the extraterrestrials and what they look like. Okay. I did a video years ago on it. Just got to go back and look. The Scrolls of Hawa, The Fragment of the Dome, Visions of the Deceased Beings in Experimental Lands. The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls, Part 2, Discovering New Lands Beyond Antarctica. Can We Escape the Simulation? Conversations with Helen Morris and the Extraterrestrial Woman Who is Beyond the Dome. Return of the Giants from the Hollow Earth, Terra Infinita and the Inner World. Read to you. That was an excellent book. Excellent. There are giants that are beneath our feet. I'm telling you, we're being watched by different factions. Outside the ice walls and within and underneath our feet. That's with the military bases, the deep underground bunkers, as well as Shambhala or the inner earth city. I'm telling you, it's a lot going on, y'all. It's a magnificent thing, though. The Land of Mars, 178 worlds under the Great Dome. Land of Custodians, 178 worlds under the Great Dome. Pleiades, the ones yet to arrive. The False Universe, the beginning of humanity, the architects of new. I've read to you all these books. I'm just reading them right now. I'm just reading the titles. The Land of the Clones, the Second Earth, when the human replicas arrive on Earth. Enoch, that was a good one. Terra Infinita in the Central Lands. I saw the ends of the Earth, the Dome, the Giants, the Nephilims, the Watchers, and Lands Beyond the Antarctica ice walls. That was a great book. And the Anunnaki Custodian Post-Flood Resettlement Plan, 1729, and The Universe Does Not Exist, The Sky as a Simulation Under the Human Resets, and he's got 2 more books on audio. So I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to jump off of here. So I've read to you all of these books, except for one. We're going to read that one, okay? And I've read to you all of these books, and I've read to you these 2 books. So I have read to you quite a bit of all of Claudio's work, actually. Like I said, I just got one more left, and we're going to get into that. So, you know, let me know if you want to see some of the extraterrestrial races. I mean, it's been 2 years that I showed you. I mean, I could go back through and show you some races, especially the ones that are working to keep us under this imposed system. I'm telling you, they got this game sewed up. They think they have it locked down, but they don't. There's going to be a time where all secrets will be revealed. They're being revealed right now. The great disclosure is happening with you and I. All right. It's not going to be like this big mention. Like I said, they're going to fly over the cities and hover with these spacecrafts. We come in peace and that type of thing. If we see that, then we know it's the Decepticons and it's as part of the U.S. military or the black budget government. Let me put it that way. Cast of characters. All right. Like she said, they're not going to arrive like that. It's going to be more of a coronation type thing. But at the same time, you have to understand we have to be consciously aware and we have to be consciously present and use our discernment. We're not supposed to bow in front of any of these beings. And if they ask you to, then you got to question yourself. That's a damn Decepticon and you need to keep stepping. I'm just telling you. So I read to you from The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. We finished up. We will intervene. I hope this was a magnificent reading for you guys. And I showed you quickly the new phenotype that was introduced. Okay. Here, The Cabbage Patch Babies by Mind Unveiled. And there are postcards, there's letters, there's the reintroduction of the new phenotype in the World's Fairs. Okay. No shade. I mean, it is what it is, you know. I told you I had Cabbage Patch in my family too. I do. I told you I'm doing the genealogy. I see it. I know. This part right here, there's more pictures. I mean, it's a magnificent book. And actually, I had these postcards when I was in the 70s. My Aunt Queen and Aunt Mabel, they had the postcards in a box. And I went through them and looked at them as a child. And I actually asked the post lady when she was delivering the mail, I went and got the postcards and showed her. She's like, oh, we don't deliver babies anymore. We used to. I'm like, oh, okay. I think I was about 6, 7, 8, something like that. Y'all know I was one of those mouthy little kids, you know. I knew from the time that I was here that this world was not the way it was supposed to be. And I've known that for a very long time. But, you know, like I tell you guys, we have to be the change that we want to see. Because it's up to you and I to make that change. You know, everybody's looking to pass the buck and they want someone else to take accountability and make a change, but you got to change yourself. You change yourself, you change the world, you change the perspective, right? Each one, teach one. And then, I mean, it just is what it is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. Power of Now. Fabulous work by Mr. Naselli. We will intervene. And repopulation. Cabbage Patch Babies. I did not read from this book. I just showed you the cover and I showed you just 1 or 2 postcards that are inside. Go check out the movie Orphan Train. Go check out Mind Unveil's channel. He does a wide scope of deep diving a lot of topics. You can start from there. Always shout out to Drop 432, Kimura Owa, Chief Red Wolf. You know, there are tons of fantastic channels that you guys can start to subscribe. Get a notebook, get a tablet, and then just start taking notes and outlining things and asking questions. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you for joining me. And I'm so glad we finished the book. We're on to another reading. All right. You guys be the change you want to see. And I will talk to you soon. Right? Bye.